The big news in college football involves a dude's Venmo account. Yeah, John Mateer, Oklahoma's quarterback. Somebody got a hold of his Venmo account, and his transactions were public, which kids never make your Venmo transactions public. I think that's the greatest lesson we can learn from anything. But John Mateer had some Venmo transactions 3 years ago when he was Washington State's redshirting freshman quarterback. And the description for one of them was sports gambling, USC versus UCLA, which, of course, that would be against the rules if it were an actual bet on USC and UCLA. Now, can anybody prove any of this? Probably not from Venmo transactions, but if you're Oklahoma, if you're the people running the football program, the athletic department, this now is something you've got to deal with. So we bring in George Stoia from Sooner Scoop on 3's excellent Oklahoma site. And George, you've been burning up the phones all morning talking to people about this. What is the latest on John Mateer? Can I add gate to this? Can I call it Venmo gate?
Hey, Andy, I just put it in a headline for us. And I don't think I've ever written a more ridiculous headline than, what we know about John Mateer and Venmo gate. But I can tell you, Andy, doing some reporting with Sooner Scoop, that they are aware of the situation. OU, that is. Mateer has talked to all the right people inside the program, whether that's coaching staff, compliance has been made aware of this. OU's on top of it. They're handling it. Whatever that entails, I'm not exactly sure. I think that they probably have to do some background checking on this. I don't really know what all goes into it. I know they haven't heard from the NCAA on this yet. Of course, this happened late last night. Maybe the NCAA gets involved at some point, but it's one of those things too, Andy, that I think Mateer is basically like, hey, we were just joking around. We were, having some fun in college, and you know how it is, Andy. You ever, put some funny stuff on Venmo? Maybe that's what happened. I don't really know. But it's one of those situations that now becomes, maybe the most interesting. Is it even a story? Like, that's the thing that I'm trying to juggle right now, Andy's like, is it a story? I guess so.
Here's why I find it interesting, George, because when I saw the screenshots on Monday night, my first response was, this has got to be fake. Because who would put sports gambling in the what's this for line on Venmo? Like, it looked like somebody had just used AI to create fake screenshots of somebody's Venmo account. And then you started seeing the videos come out where they're just scrolling his Venmo transactions, and you see, oh no, they do show up there. And then John Mateer makes his Venmo private later in the night, which is almost that we've kind of decided that's the universal acknowledgement that this might be real. Yeah. And that's the thing. It was so dumb that it looked fake. And then he puts them private and you're like, oh, maybe it wasn't fake. But to your point, you can put anything in that Venmo line. You can't prove any of it. Right. And there's always an explanation. I did go through my own Venmo transactions today. Mine are private, by the way, because I'm an old, and I was raised in an analog world where you don't put all your business out on the internet. But I did, in the interest of transparency, find my sketchiest Venmo transaction and let everybody see it. And I paid Stuart Mandel $160 for burger emoji, which I'm assuming was a more elaborate dinner than burgers.
Yeah.
Based on the date, it was the night before the national championship game. But who knows? Maybe there was a gold encrusted Wagyu burger somewhere in there that I just forgot about. But that's the world we live in now, where people will go through your stuff from years ago looking for anything.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and look, I'm the same way, Andy. A lot of my Venmo transactions are just emoji stuff, but
I have an only emoji rule.
Yeah, only emojis. Yeah, or just go private on them. And that's the part that's like, man, what was he thinking? But yet at the same time, you have to remember he's 18 years old. He's a freshman in college, and that's the part that it's like, I really don't think they can prove anything. But I think I texted this to you last night when we were kind of chatting about it, and I know I talked to other people about this. It's the idea of like, okay, now like OU has to be made aware of it. The NCAA, I'm sure, is aware of it in some capacity. And do they look into other stuff? You think back to the Iowa State and Iowa scandal where they found those guys had, was it DraftKings accounts, I think.
Right. And Hunter Deckers was going to be Iowa State's quarterback and
yeah,
got pulled off the team.
Exactly. So it's like, could they go and look and see if John does have an account somewhere else or somebody, that he's paying to, I hate to speculate like that, but that's the kind of thought that went through my head. Is like, they're not going to prove anything with the Venmo account. But does it lead, a paper trail to something else? I don't know. I really think nothing's going to come of this other than a fun internet story and a meme, and he's probably going to catch a lot of crap for it on the road this year in the SEC and on College Game Day, maybe. But I don't know, Andy. It's fascinating, and I also know that OU is trying to maybe get ahead of this. Maybe they put out a statement today. I don't know if that's even a good idea. Like, is it something that you should just be like, oh, let's just move on and pretend like this didn't happen? I don't really know how they're going to go about this.
Well, here's the thing, especially with this stuff. And we live in a new world. And let's be real here. We all, like, shows like mine have gambling sponsors. Everybody has access to apps where they can gamble. It is rampant on college campuses. That is absolutely true. The NCAA is currently working on adjusting its rules. It's in the legislative process to make it where student athletes can gamble on pro sports. They still can't gamble on their own sports or sports at their school, but they'll be allowed to gamble on pro sports because that's basically the NCAA saying, hey, we're going to live in reality here because college students gamble on sports, and that's just how it is now. But you still can't gamble on your own sport. That's always going to be a rule. And what I think is interesting is we'll see how Oklahoma handles this, but if there's something to be found in this type of situation, like the Hunter Deckers situation at Iowa State, it'll get found because the schools subscribe to these services that check everything. The sports books, I guarantee, are now looking back at all the Washington State games, looking back at history and that sort of thing, because they have a financial interest in making sure that the games aren't fixed. So they'll go into it deep, probably deeper than the NCAA ever could. If there was something to be found, it'd be found. If John Mateer is going to Oklahoma and saying, hey, there's nothing here, you can put out a statement, like, they're probably going to be okay because he would know if he had something in the history that's going to get, because if you do have something in the history, they will find it.
Right. And I don't know, Andy, like, I just don't buy that he was doing that. I mean, there's other transactions in there, like FIFA betting or something. Like, maybe it was just one of those things where they're betting on video games in their,
it was like super mega sports gambling FIFA, if I remember correctly, which, I was assuming that's betting on a video game that you guys are playing together. But
it's just like, it's so head scratching to be like, man, you just put sports gambling in the memo. Like, what? Well, and again, I know he's 18, but the thought process there, I don't know, Andy. It's one of those things that, last night I was just hanging out at home and had a busy work day, preseason camps going on. And it's like this, like, somebody DMs me this, and I'm just like, oh, that's weird. And I had the same reaction you did. I was like, this has got to be fake. Like, I don't buy this. And then you go to his Venmo page, and me and some of the other guys at Sooner Scoop did, and just scrolled all the way down. And sure enough, there it is. And of course he wipes it clean later. So it's like, oh, this is probably something that we have to at least look into.
It's truly amazing because when I first started Venmo account a few years ago, it just takes the numbers that you have in your phone and matches them to whoever's on Venmo. And so obviously I have lots of NFL players' numbers in my phone because I got their numbers when they were recruits or when they were in college. And I'm seeing NFL players that are pretty famous in their Venmo transactions, and it's usually pizza. Yeah. It's almost always pizza. But I was like, how are these people allowing this to be public? And that, but that's the thing. Like, when I signed up, I didn't realize everything's public. But as soon as I saw that, I want to say, I think it was Gardner Minshew's number popped up, or his name popped up on mine. And I was like, wait, why am I seeing what Gardner Minshew is buying? And then I looked at the settings. I was like, oh, you have to make this private. And so I did. So now you don't see all the times that I've paid for my daughter's ballet shoes. But that's something that in this world, I mean, you're 18, you go to Washington State, you were a lightly recruited quarterback out of high school in Little Elm, Texas. Like, you're probably not going to know that.
Yeah. I also, what's the funny part of this story too, Andy, is I don't know if you've really dug into how this originated, but there's a theory that it started from some Texas fans looking into it. And if that is not the most Red River rivalry, I mean, that is pure SEC football, pure hate right there. And what's funny too is on our board, on Soonerscoop.com, we have people now Venmoing John Mateer money, just sending him free money. And so it's like, it's caught this whole new thing where John Mateer's getting probably all these Venmo requests now from people because they found his Venmo. It's just
he probably can't take him because he got to run him through the CSC clearinghouse.
Yeah, so I can't imagine like what's going on John Mateer's phone right now. If I were him, I'd probably just delete my account entirely because now the whole world has it. Because there's probably also people sending him money. There's probably also people requesting lots of money from him as well.
Well, yeah, and we know he got a pretty good deal because Miami was after him too when he was leaving Washington State. So, but can you imagine being John Mateer and opening your phone Monday night?
No,
I'm sure you get texts immediately from friends.
Oh yeah,
parents, somebody saying you're going to need to do something here. Yeah.
Or I'd be, I mean, I guess maybe not panic. If he didn't do anything, then maybe you don't panic at all. But I don't know. It's fascinating. We're supposed to talk to Brent Venables this week on Friday. I don't know if this will be brought up. I would think that this will be cleared up by then. I mean, I think that Andy, maybe by the time we get off this show and later today, maybe we have some statements and some clarity on some of this. But it is interesting that, we are supposed to have some media. We actually spoke with several guys yesterday before all this.
Michael Fasusi, the freshman offensive tackle who might start.
I know.
Like that would be the big news other than if this hadn't happened.
Well, and that's the other thing that's part of this is like, even, if nothing comes of this, whatever, it is somewhat of a distraction. I don't know how serious of a distraction is. I would assume it's being talked about in the locker room by guys, so it's one of those things you don't really want it to happen in preseason camp. I also am like, I don't think it's that big of a deal. I do think that, people are gambling. I mean, everybody does it, so I don't know. It's fascinating though.
Well, this is just, it's yet another thing for Oklahoma fans. One thing that I will tell Oklahoma fans that should make them happy, at least they're going to look cool at the stadium this year because Oklahoma is part of the game day collection at Rhoback. I'm wearing a Rhoback Hezzy hoodie right now. You know how I felt about the old Rhoback performance hoodies, that they were the best, that your whole family would steal them. The Hezzy hoodie, they've somehow made it more comfortable. It's even better. And now you can get it in all of your favorite universities. Your school is probably a Rhoback partner. They have dozens of them. There's actually more of them dropping this week. Right here, I've got they sent me the Florida Q-Zip. This is the helmet stripe Q-Zip. It is unbelievable. But Clemson, Oklahoma, Notre Dame, Penn State, Nebraska, you name it, Ohio State, that's the helmet stripe Q-Zip for Ohio State. So go to rhoback.com, RHOBACK, 20% off your first order. Look great at stadium, at the tailgate, at the watch party this year. RHOBACK. Also, get your polos, your everyday shorts. The t-shirts are awesome now. Rhoback has really stepped things up. RHOBACK, code Andy for 20% off your first order. George, question for you. You're young. So you were very, very young when this happened, but I know there's a lot of people you work with and a lot of people that you talk to at the University of Oklahoma where there's been a lot of continuity that I'm sure the second all this happened last night, they went back to 2006 and Rhett Bomar and Big Red, the auto dealership.
Yeah. Yeah. And I was 10 years old when that happened. And I'll never forget my dad telling me about that and being like, oh yeah, this guy, and back then it was like so frowned upon, these guys getting paid and, what he did and all that. And Rhett Bomar was a disgrace. And now it's like, oh, well, that would have been pretty normal in today's world, but
very, very normal because he was clocking in for 40 hours and working 5, but he had like an hourly salary. Like it's so quaint compared to the money now.
Yeah, justice for Rhett Bomar. But yeah, I'm sure. I mean, and that's the thing. You said it earlier, Andy. But like, reading our boards are like just when like all this positive momentum with OU right now, there's a lot of hope that this group can be really good. The offense has been performing pretty well in camp, a lot better than they did a year ago against a really good defense. And then something like this pops up. And again, I don't think anything's going to come of this, but it's just the thought of like, are you serious? Like, could we lose our quarterback, a couple weeks before the season to something this ridiculous?
I feel like there's one or two incredibly stupid stories every preseason. And unfortunately, the Oklahoma fans, they drew the short straw on this one, I think. And so they have to worry about this for a minute. I think I'm with you. I don't necessarily think anything comes of this. I think Oklahoma's response would have been markedly different if there were something back in the history that they were really, really concerned about. I think they would have closed ranks. You would have heard nothing from anybody, and it would just be locked down until maybe Brent Venables talks on Friday. But that doesn't seem to be the case right now. It seems to be that they are operating as if they expect John Mateer to play, and that's but to stay updated on all this, you need to be reading George every day at Soonerscoop.com. Soonerscoop is our excellent Oklahoma site at On3. And George, thank you so much for this. And we'll be bugging you again pretty soon because this, again, Oklahoma drew the short straw. They got the dumb preseason story. We may have to tie a bow on it soon.
Hopefully for OU fans, the next time I'm on with you, we're talking about actual football and not the quarterback possibly being in a gambling pyramid scheme with his old college roommate.
Yes. Yes. I want to hear about the 5-star offensive tackle who might start.
I want to talk about him. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. George, thank you so much.